Hello, we're going to go ahead and get our meeting started since we've got a quorum here. You may be, I'm going to do this. There we go. You may be wondering why it's my face that you see and not our beloved chair, Mr. Francis, who I believe is joining us on WebEx. So that 4-mile run that you heard about, he's a little hoarse yesterday. I think it turned into something a little bit more. And so he's here, he's just not here to make sure he doesn't spread anything as if there's something to spread. So that's why I'm here. So be easy on me today, please. Be kind. And I have a vice chair volunteer here. Chair Delperdang is going to help me out to try to see you guys on questions. So, all right, let's get started. I'm going to announce any bill introductions that we have today. No bill introduction. All right. Well, we can go ahead and jump into our agenda today. If you'll notice, we have an extra sheet based on questions yesterday. Unless you want Walter to do a presentation on this a little bit, I'm just going to tell you it's based on the questions we asked and what were the sentencing requirements for drug offenses. So that's what you're going to find isn't the extra piece that they added for us. So thank you for that. Any questions on that sheet? Anything we need to talk about? You guys are so easy today. This is great. No. All right. So super excited to talk about our presentation for today. It is the Department of Energy High Burnup Research Cask Shipment. So Shannon told us a little bit about this, Chair Francis, yesterday. And we have presenters virtually. Is that correct? We have 3 people presenting today? Okay. And they'll be from the Midwestern Radioactive Materials Transportation Project. So this should be very interesting. And is Melissa first up? All right, if she's ready to go, we're ready for her.
Yes, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Go ahead.
Brilliant. Now, do you see slides?
Not yet.
Let's see. Mr. Nolte, am I showing slides or are you?
Oh, we're working on it.
You're supposed to be sharing the slides.
I'm sorry, say again?
I said you're supposed to be sharing the slides today.
I understand. Okay, so give me one moment then and let me get this pulled up. Okay. And okay, let's see. Do you see the slides now? Let's see.
Okay, while we're waiting, let's talk. Did you guys get information on the minutes? Previous minutes? Was there any questions on those minutes? Really? Okay, seeing none. Question, the minutes are approved. All right, thank you.
All right, are you able to see the slides now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, well, brilliant. I'm going to look, let's see, I think I can't see you whilst also seeing the slides. So forgive me for potentially not really looking at you. But thank you very much for allowing us to speak to you here today. My name is Melissa Shahzada, and I am the director of the Midwestern Radioactive Materials Transportation Project, which we refer to as the MRMTP, which is housed within the Council of State Government's Midwestern office and is funded by 3 different offices within the Department of Energy, the DOE. So I am not, nor are my colleagues here with me today, federal employees. rather, the work of the MRMTP is funded by the federal government. So, as you can see here with this slide, the MRMTP was founded in 1981 and is the primary mechanism through which the Midwestern states collaborate with the federal government on shipments of radioactive materials through the Midwestern region. The project's executive committee is comprised of gubernatorial appointees from the 12 Midwestern states. And I know that Kansas sometimes is claimed by the southern region, but for our purposes, Kansas is part of the Midwest. And we are speaking to you here today as the Midwestern Route Engagement Work Group, which is drawn from the membership of the MRMTP. And now I'd like to invite my colleagues and to introduce themselves very quickly before we go any further. And on my screen here, I see Greg, you're up. So Greg, if you would like to introduce yourself.
Thank you, Melissa. Greg Gothard. I am the gubernatorial appointee for the state of Michigan. I am the acting supervisor for the Radiological Emergency Preparedness Unit within Michigan. Back to you.
And Cheryl, how about you?
Sure. Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Head. I work for the Illinois Emergency Management Agency and Office of Homeland Security. I'm the alternate appointee for the state of Illinois, and I am the manager of our Radiological Field Services section.
Brilliant. And Mr. Schreiber, are you there in the room, sir?
He's coming to the microphone.
Yes, Melissa, I'm here.
Okay, I assume everyone knows you then in the room.
They probably wouldn't claim that, but yes, I think they all do. Thank you.
Okay, brilliant. Well, as our time here is short, let's just jump right in. In 2013, the DOE Office of Nuclear Energy, so DOE-NE, undertook a research project designed to understand whether high burn-up nuclear fuel behaves the same in storage as does lower burn-up nuclear fuel. Now, about 15 years later, they are ready to complete the project. And to do so, they have to move a single cask of this high burn-up fuel from its current location, which is in Virginia, to the Idaho National Laboratory. Now, they anticipate moving this shipment, which is referred to as the High Burn-Up Research Cask, the HBURC. Sometimes you'll hear the Fed say the HBURC. They are going to move this HBURC in fall of 2027. And you can see on that graphic there the anticipated route the cask will take. Now, the HBURC will move by rail, and here we have some images. The HBURC will move by rail, and DOE has designed and had certified by the railroad authorities a special rail car that they call Atlas, and you can see there in the image. That Atlas is designed specifically to move spent nuclear fuel. The shipment will also be accompanied by armed escorts who will travel in the rail escort vehicle, which you can see there, the bottom image. Now, DOE intends to hold a dress rehearsal of this shipment in the spring of 2027 to test procedures, to engage with the public, with emergency response officials along the route. But the actual shipment is expected to take place in the fall of 2027. Now, all publicly available information is available on the project website. You can see the link there. I understand you can also scan this QR code, and that will take you to the information, to the page as well. You can also sign up there on that project website to receive emailed updates and information about announcements directly from the DOE regarding the shipment. And I can also say that I'm the co-chair of DOE's HBURC work group. And I can tell you that the controlled information that is not going to be made publicly available is already being shared with the specific communities and the states along the route which the train will travel through, so that planning, preparation, training, etc. Can begin now. So that's the background information. What questions can we answer for you? And I'm going to stop sharing for the moment, if that's all right, so that I can see you all in the room. And let me see whether, okay, I can get, right, now I can see you all. So what questions can we answer for you?
Any questions? Representative Delberding.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your presentation too. I was just, how much fuel or weight or et cetera is actually within the cask? You've got the, you said the cask itself is more than 180 tons, but how much fuel is actually in that? And then if there was a derailment or something broke open, what kind of radiation levels are we looking at?
Greg or Cheryl, are you interested in answering that? Would you like me to take it?
I don't know about the weight, but I can speak to the possibility of an accident. The cask itself is designed to withstand severe transportation accidents and undergoes very rigorous testing to make sure that it's not going to break open. So there's been an amazing level of tests on it, so that we're confident that there would be no breach if there was an accident. So things are possible with trains. You can have derailments, you can have rollovers, things like that. But this cask will remain intact.
So on the rail itself, is there a specific speed limit as you come through the state?
I don't know the answer to that one. Do you know, Melissa?
That will be determined by the Federal Railroad Administration, as in collaboration with the actual train companies that will be who own the rail it will be transiting. I do not know the specific speed, however. I can, however, speaking to Greg's point, I can mention that there was a test done where a train was actually crashed into one of these casks that carry the spent nuclear fuel. This test was done in 1984, and a 239-ton train was crashed into a cask at 100 miles per hour. And the train had actually 8 cars on it. It was all done under controlled circumstances to test the integrity of the casks. And whilst the train itself was destroyed, the cask suffered nothing but superficial damage. So just speaking to Mr. Garthard's point about the robust nature of these casks. But at 100 miles per hour, the cask was secure. But in terms of the speed of the train, that the train will travel as it moves from Virginia to Idaho, I do not know that specific speed.
Okay. So I would assume it's just the normal speed that they run the rail cars through then. There's nothing lower than because of what it is.
I cannot answer that question. That would be a question for the railroad.
All right, we're going to move to Chairman Francis real quick. He has a question on WebEx. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair, and you're doing an extraordinarily good job. I guess my question is, one, has this route ever been used to transfer this radioactive material in the past? And if so, how often has it happened? And how many times?
Greg or Cheryl, are you interested in taking that question, or would you like me to?
Actually, I'm does the nuclear Navy use this route? Because they've been transporting spent nuclear fuel for a very long time. Do they transport on that route?
I'm not, the Navy does not broadcast the routes that they take. So it's likely that the Navy has used this route for its own shipments. I can say, however, that this shipment is unusual in that it is it's a one-off. So whilst radioactive materials have been transiting the Midwest for decades. And without incident. This particular shipment is, as I indicated, part of a research project. And this shipment will not be moving under the authority of the NRC, nor will it be moving under the authority of the Nuclear Waste Policy Act, nor is it part of national security, all of which are other legal mechanisms that govern or control the nature of how, or the legal structure under which these shipments move. This particular shipment is being moved by DOE, and it is under its authority associated with the Atomic Energy Act of 1954. So this is a kind of a project apart that stands apart from other shipments that do take place in the country of the radioactive materials.
And Madam Vice Chair, may I ask another question?
Yes, go ahead.
So why are we doing it this time? I mean, what's the reason for this transport if it's never happened before?
Certainly, I think that really is the crux of it, isn't it? This shipment has to happen because the Idaho National Laboratory has the facilities that the DOE needs in order to complete the research on this kind of fuel. So they cannot do it in Virginia, where the cask currently lives, let's say. They have to transport it to Idaho in order to complete the research. So that is why this has to happen now. In terms of the timing, there was a certain period of time that needed to lapse between when the fuel was removed from the reactor and then when they were going to complete the research to determine how, in fact, it behaves in storage. So that's why it has to happen now, and it's also why it needs to move, why it cannot be completed at its current location.
All right, Representative Vaughn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. That was actually my question. So yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Melissa or Greg or Cheryl, I think the question that Representative Delperdang had as far as what the contents of the cask, that it was, there's several fuel assemblies that were in North Anna's plant. I don't have a specific number, but I think that might be relevant to the question that Representative Delperdang offered.
Yes, I'm sorry if we didn't answer that. You are correct, sir, Mr. Schreiber, that there are, I do not know how many fuel assemblies it is, but there are, it is fuel assemblies from a specific reactor that the fuel remained in the reactor for longer than other fuel, and thus it got its name of higher burnup, in that it was in the reactor for a longer period of time.
Hey, Melissa, I'm looking at a presentation that we received from DOE at one point. It says 32 assemblies.
Okay, 32 fuel assemblies then. Thank you, Cheryl.
All right, Representative Goddard.
Thank you, Madam Acting Chair. My question has to do with not necessarily spent fuel, but new fuel that would populate a fission reactor put a mile below ground in southeast Kansas. Are you involved at all with the transportation and supplying the new fuel for a reactor that is possibly going to be located in southeast Kansas? And where would that fuel come from? And what kind of a route would it take, whether it be rail or truck? Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for the question. Unfortunately, this is slightly beyond our purview in that we focus primarily in the back end of the nuclear fuel cycle in terms of the spent nuclear fuel coming out of reactors and then being transported. Whilst the Midwestern Radioactive Materials Transportation Project does track, let's say, and is aware of the shipments on the front end, it is beyond our brief to speak to that. Greg or Cheryl, do you have any information you would like to share regarding the, I guess, the front end of the fuel? of the nuclear fuel cycle.
I
Well,
can only.
thank you. Thank you for that response. I guess I'm curious about who we would contact to see how that fuel is going to be transported.
Can I let Representative Delperdang answer that? He's got an answer.
Yeah, you're speaking about deep fission. It's going to be a uranium core in the reactor. At this point, there is not even a reactor. It's on the drawing board, so it's out there a ways. It's a fairly small amount. I have not got the exact amount from them yet, but it is a small reactor. They're talking about maybe a 2 megawatt on the first one to see if it even, it's an experimental stage. So what you're seeing in Parsons, Kansas right now, they're test drilling the core to even see what's down there. They may get the hole down there and say, hey, we can't do this. So it's very early stages.
Well, that's correct information. I was just curious. They say they'd be up and running by 4th of July.
Good luck.
So I don't know what's going to happen there.
Now, the reason I say that is they still need FERC approval and nuclear approval and everything. There's a bunch of stages they're going to have to go through.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Representative Van Houten.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So is this a one-time transportation, or will this become routine?
No, sir. This will be a single shipment of a single cask. This is not part of a larger shipping campaign, and it will not be routine.
I have a quick question. So what happens once the testing is done? What do you do with the fuel when it's all done?
But that's the $1 million question, I think, isn't it? What do we do with the fuel when it's all done? My understanding from DOE is that the fuel will remain in Idaho, so it will not then be transported back. It will not be sent back across country. My understanding is once it arrives in Idaho, they will complete the research. They open the cask, do the testing that they need to do, and then that material will remain in Idaho.
All right, thank you. Representative Vaughn?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question about the security. You mentioned there will be armed security on the specialty rail car that is attached to the cask. Are you also coordinating with local jurisdictions for local security, or has the project determined just having the on rail car security is sufficient for the project?
That is a brilliant question. Local communities are collaborating with the federal government in the planning for this shipment. So yes, there will be armed guards on the train in the escort vehicles, but then the communities along the route will be able to exercise their own jurisdiction and make decisions about what else they require, whether there will be escorts, whether there will be inspections along route, etc. Cheryl or Greg, would you like to speak a little bit to that, at least what happens in your states?
I mean, I can speak to what happens, I guess, for highway shipments, I guess. But we haven't had any rail shipments through the state of Illinois. So, but for my state, when we have highway shipments come through, we require escort throughout the state by our state police. So, we follow it the entirety of the state.
Thank you. I was wondering if something might also be appropriate, similar to that in the circumstance. So maybe that's something we can reach out to our Department of Transportation about, but just curious what's been done before. So thank you.
Another component, perhaps an answer to your question, is part of the work of the MRMTP has involved the development of a planning guide for shipments of radioactive materials through the region, not specifically to train, also, as Cheryl mentioned, also highway by truck. And so we do have this document. It is available on our website, and it articulates state-specific requirement. Well, I say requirements. It's they are expectations. And so the states have identified this is our expectation for whether, as Cheryl indicated in Illinois, whether these shipments are going to be escorted, what the fee structure is going to be, what the advance notification system will look like, and who will receive those advance notifications. So there is already a framework that exists for Kansas as well as all of the other Midwestern states about what expectations are surrounding these shipments. And so we imagine that will be the starting point for escort, security, inspection, etc., for this particular shipment when it begins to move.
Thank you.
All right, Representative Collins.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was just wondering, is the train going to have like priority, or where it's going to go straight through? Or is it going to be like stuck on a sidetrack somewhere, maybe waiting on another train? And if so, would that be for a prolonged period of time?
I don't want to speak beyond my brief, but my understanding is that this train will have priority, that it will move straight through except for where it needs to stop for crew changes, etc. This, I believe, is a question ultimately that will be sorted by the railroads themselves and the FRA. But all indications thus far have pointed to this train, when it moves, having priority.
Okay, thank you. I know, it's inevitable. It might have to stop somewhere, and like you said, for crew changes and all. But I was just wondering if it. Just want to make sure it wasn't in one place for too long. But thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair.
Representative Weigel.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have a lot of questions. Are you saying that security is up to each state that it's traveling through? Or am I misunderstanding that?
The local communities through which the train will travel are already in discussion and collaboration with the federal government about their expectations for security whilst that train is in its jurisdiction. So whilst there will be armed guards with the train, on the train, that I assume will be federal employees, I do not know this for certain, the local states, the individual states will have input into what other security measures are taken along the route and within their state. Does that answer your question?
Not really. Is somebody from the DOE coordinating all of this? I mean, are they going to be like the umbrella agency that's going to be responsible for this? Or are you saying that as the train travels from Virginia through, well, it looks like it goes through Alabama, then cuts up back north and through like Missouri and Kansas and parts further west, that each, as this train travels through each of those jurisdictions, those states, that there'll be somebody there that will be aware and have training in all of this. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir, I believe that is what we're saying. So the DOE is the authority, the owner, let's say, of this shipment. It is moving under DOE's authority, granted by the Atomic Energy Act. However, there will be people, local individuals, first responders, and security police, etc., along the route, who will be notified in advance that the shipment is coming, and will have collaborated with the DOE, prepared for the shipment in advance. perhaps I'm not understanding your question or the nuance of your question.
Okay, and just one more question. When it says armed escorts will travel on the train in a rail escort vehicle, does that mean they're separate from the vehicle, the train, actual train car that's transporting this? Are they going to be separated from that, physically separated?
They will be in a separate car that is part of the same train. So the industry term here is consist, the train consist, which is, I think, like when I was a young person, I liked trains. It's like what we call as the little rail cars, right? The individual cars. And so there is a specific rail car, which is called Atlas, that is the car the cask will be on. And then attached to that, and I'm sure that's not the proper industry term, I'm sure you don't attach a train car to part of the train, but the other cars that are part of this train consist, which is the full train with the engine and then all of the individual cars, and then I suppose a caboose, although I'm sure they don't call it a caboose anymore either. That train consists of the Atlas car that has the cask on it, and then the rail escort vehicles that are attached to it. And the armed guards will be in those escort vehicles.
All right, thank you.
Representative Schreiber.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Excuse me, I can't clear my throat today. Melissa and Greg and Cheryl, I just happened, and members of the committee, I was in a previous committee before I came up here and happened to sit with Ed Klump, who our legislative colleagues here know is representing 3 of the local law enforcement groups in the state of Kansas. And I mentioned this presentation, and he'd be interested in hearing about it, but he said, you know, for other types of hazardous type of shipments, they're made aware of these ahead of time so that they can do their planning and training and so forth. But he'll be interested in hearing more about this particular shipment. And I mentioned, you know, it's still a ways off, but he said they'll be glad to learn from it and be prepared.
Thank you. Representative Wilborn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Along the lines of security again, you obviously have some very sophisticated loss prevention or intel. Who would you anticipate, a domestic or foreign terrorist or someone who would be likely to sabotage this operation?
I want to make sure I understand your question. Are you asking who a nefarious actor might be, or are you asking what intel they might have available?
I'm asking, you obviously have some very sophisticated specialists along this line of security. They also have to have some modeling or some advanced thinking as to who would be likely to try to sabotage this operation. Would it be domestic or foreign influence?
Unfortunately, that is not a question I can answer. I can say that I know the concerns for any shipment would be where, when, and how. Where is it going? When is it going? And how is it going? And so that information, the granular detail of the answers to those 3 questions is held to be secured information. So it is not being publicly promulgated. The individual communities, the local communities along the route, and those offices are already in possession of some of that information, but it is again being secured in order to the extent possible, prevent any sort of planning by nefarious actors. As to whether it is domestic or international, unfortunately, it's outside of my purview, and I'm not able to speak to that. Greg or Cheryl, do you have any information that you would want to add to that answer?
No, nothing to add.
No, I don't have anything either. The only thing I can think of is this is fairly routine type of shipments that happen in other countries. So the U.S. is a little bit late to the party on getting spent nuclear fuel storage handled. So if there is anything ever, it would be domestic, and that's the only thing I've ever seen.
Thank you. Thank you for your response.
Representative Delberding.
Okay, one more question on that. When this thing comes across country, is it going to be a specific transport for the cask, as in the toll train is 4 or 5 cars long, or is it going to be in with a whole bunch of other freight and a mile-long caravan, if you would?
No, sir, it will be specific. It will be this train with this cask and nothing else on it.
If I may, I'll try to describe the way DOE has shown us how this train is set up. It's an engine, it's a blank car, it's the Atlas rail cask, followed by another blank car, followed by the escort vehicle. I believe you can go to DOE's website. If you just do a quick web search of the Atlas rail car, you'll see it on DOE's website.
Thank you. Representative Brunk.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I haven't heard yet what's the total length of time, point A to point B, that it takes to transport this material?
Unfortunately, sir, that is a question I asked of DOE last week, and I did not get a good answer to it. So that is currently still being worked out.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any other questions? It looks like that's all of our questions. Thank you so much for providing us this information. Very interesting. And I'm sure if we have questions, we have a way we can reach out to you.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for giving us the time to speak to you all today.
Appreciate it. Thank you. All right, committee. I know that Chairman Francis already went over what is ahead, but tomorrow we have a Drive to Zero Coalition presentation, just a reminder, and a hearing on HB 2416, which is the Motorsports Venue Protection Act. So make sure you take a look at that. And Friday, we don't have a meeting scheduled at this point. So any other comments, questions? All right, we're adjourned.